Okay. So Stephen has given you context about a bunch of different things. We've been associated with the IAF for a very long time. And for me personally, it's been every single time that I interact with people, friends, colleagues from IAF, it's always been an opportunity to learn. And today is no different. Whilst we share some of our perspectives from the book that came out 5 years ago, but as always, knowledge comes from churning artifacts. And the book is the chapter in the book is an artifact, how all of you and all of us churn it and see what kind of knowledge we are able to get from that and make new meaning out of that is going to be how we will make, and that's what's most exciting for me for today. Stephen?
Great, thanks so much, Kavi. And yeah, it has two aspects that we're going to talk about. Is one about the book itself, but we've got lots of lived experience, as Kavi said, since when we wrote the book and where we are now. And we'll also share how some of what we've written in the book has grown and our new insights around that. But the first question, I'm just about to throw open a Menti to all of you. And if you just click on that, and the question that we want to hear from you is, and what does facilitation mean to you from a lived experience, not from a theoretical experience? You've all got skin in the game. You're all here because you've done facilitation to whatever degree. And what we want you to do is just to start typing in and saying, what does facilitation mean to you? I'll put the link in there. Thank you. Obviously, people are able to access it. I'm starting to see some responses come up. Remember, from your lived experience point of view, all of the different situations that you've been in, where you've been facilitative, etc., what does it mean to you? Great. Starting to see some responses coming through. I'll just give it a minute or two before I share my screen. And do let us know if you've had trouble accessing that. But so these are some of the things that you're sharing. Being true to yourself, being inclusive, holding space to harness the knowledge from the group, connecting to myself, being present to the space of we as they emerge. Good way to interact with groups, opened a new world to me, a navigator, connecting, multiple perspectives, collaborative learning. What are you seeing there, Kavi? Engagement and participation. Yep, go ahead.
No, I think people are bringing in their ideas into the conversation as we kick off, and that's very useful for us. Yeah, it's very nice.
Facilitation is like tending a campfire, providing warmth, space, and safety while others gather, share, and ignite their own sparks. Bringing light to the darker corners of communication. channel to communicate ideas in safe spaces, recognising, guiding, following and flow. A bridge that links participants to outcomes. Thank you. I'll download that and share it with you. Any particular highlights that stood out for you there, Kavi?
Oh, yeah, it's all beautiful, very, very nice and pertinent. Many years ago, we were having some conversations with a bunch of different facilitators from around the world. We're just sitting down and exchanging ideas and notes. And as we were doing that, we kind of realized that we could not transcend a particular limit. And that limit was processes, tools, and methodologies. The arc was very clear that if we get to having great processes, and if we get to run it with great processes, or if we have great methodologies and tools, we're pretty much up there. And whilst it was very energizing for somebody new to come in and pick up the tool and pick up the process and pick up the method and make a difference to a group and continue doing that so well, it was very energizing to see. But it was also, if I might use a strong provocative word here, it was also frustrating to see that facilitation was reduced often to what can provide livelihood and not see it for how much of life it can bring. And it is that frustration with the moot point, that was the moot point for us to expand on the idea that it's not tools, it's not processes, it's not methods. They are the foundation building blocks on which you build. But that's not where you stop. That's where you start. What lies beyond it? And how can you, or can you and me and we, can we make it life? Was the moot point and is the moot point. And that's how this chapter was almost born out of a certain sense of frustration that we are unable to imagine beyond processes, tools, and methods. And that frustration led us to think and help and have dialogue and have opportunities to look out in non-facilitative environments and look for elements of facilitation where the person did not hold a title as facilitator, and to see how did that person facilitate without a title. And if it were so easy, then how many domains does facilitation as a core span and spread? And if we were to study all of that, how can we make meaning more? And how can we enrich our lives? And the whole idea in the chapter, you will see the first few pages, I think, more on giving you context about why it's important to see this not as just a livelihood provider, but as a life enricher. And that was how we got started thinking about it and ideating about it and talking to real life people about it and bringing those nuances back into our world in order to help people see beyond processes, tools, and methods and enjoy and rejoice in the being at every possible moment. That's the context for how this whole journey started for us. Stephen.
Yeah, thanks. It's as Kavi said earlier, the opportunity to come back and reflect on the origins of how we got to this chapter and and how it evolved as we went along. But the premise, as Kavi said, was speaking to people who didn't consider themselves as facilitators. And because we wanted to get a sense of how people were actually facilitating by just being who they were. And we spoke to musicians, we spoke to nurses, we spoke to artists, we spoke to business people, we spoke to people under a tree, out in a village, to get a sense of that. And then we each at Kavi had a conversation with a bunch of people. I had a conversation with a bunch of people, and then we came back and started to compare and share the notes from those conversations. And that was where we started to go, oh, wow, you know, there's some really common features that were emerging around what people felt that they were doing when they were helping somebody by just sitting there and listening and hearing them and making them felt as though that they were being heard. And it was those things that started to pop up and populate our page that generated a great deal of conversation between the two of us. And it wasn't linear. There was the conversations and coming back to each other and sharing what we were doing. And that was as the conversations were going on, but then also at the end. And at the same time, as Kavi said, we were curious about the concept over the millennium, over the centuries, and what was giving us as a sense that facilitation has always been there, and it didn't have the title. And so it just helped us give us a lot of context to what it looks like in day-to-day life.
And if you look back, and I'll just a few pointers for us to remember. If you look back, facilitation is a name that's evolved in the recent times, but groups have always been around for ages. And there is science, and it's mentioned in the chapter as well, and where I went down several rabbit holes before coming up with how the size of the brain, the size of the human brain, how it's evolved by trying to work with large groups of people, and how much that's important for us to understand that we are social beings and we exist with so many other people. And as we work through this, we've got to also remember that facilitation is not a function of education. It's not a function of age. It's not a function of gender. It's not a function of culture. It's not a function of profession. So we were searching for what truly is beyond. So our journeys took us to people who had no idea of the written word. They were illiterate people. We spoke to very senior people. We spoke to young kids. We spoke to people who were plumbers, musicians. So it went multi-dimensional before choosing out 3 specific elements of what we saw as people who are facilitative in their daily life, and therefore pointers for us to live a facilitative life. And before we start diving in, I just wanted to make one point. By no means is this exhaustive. By no means are we saying this is it. I'm sure with more research, we'll be able to come up with more ideas and more nuances to what we picked up 5 years ago. But at that point in time, with the resources that we had at that point in time, we could point to these 3 elements very clearly. These were not data-driven, but these were conversation and anecdote and in-person experience-driven. And that's how we came up with the 3 pointers that we'll introduce you to sometime during the day. Stephen, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Just before we break out, and we've got a question for you to explore in the breakout rooms, just quickly, how is it sitting with you what you've heard about the origins of the chapter and how we got to where we were? Any initial thoughts or any initial questions that are emerging for you? Yep, Bhakti.
Just a very curious question that normally, like, at least I speak for myself, the stage that I am in, where tools and processes kind of are enough to give us the livelihood. What made you go beyond that and explore that? What was that prompt, trigger, or inspiration?
I'll take that. But in my conversations with several people, I'll be very honest, frank, and provocative. This is almost like a set of people who you can be, and I take the liberty to being honest and upfront. I saw, and I still see, many people reducing themselves and not being fully flowering and not being able to be themselves in all of the essence of what they bring, because they have to adhere to a process or a tool or a methodology. And in several conversations, there was frustration in several people who said, look, I want to do this, but the process tells me this. And we used to have a heated argument about that, saying the process is the start. But what you do with the process is where you will take your group to. And that was the start. That was, it was a little bit of a, oh, I so wish the person just held himself or herself lightly and just float a little bit and honestly garner everything that the person has within the person and not reduce themselves. And that was where it started. And the whole goal was to see if we can, I'm being very I'm exaggerating here, if we can give a certain sense of lightness to people, saying, hey, this is life. This is, while processes are very nice, it's important, it gives you skills, but this is life. Stay light with it and you'll fly, was the honest inquisition, if I were to call it that.
Thank you. Thank you, Kavi. I've heard that before in many forms from you, but always a joy to hear it again. Thank you.
Thanks. It was a great question.
I have 2 things to share with your permission.
Yes, Ravi.
So, when I was hearing Kavi share now, there are 2 things which struck me. One is about process, and process, in fact, being a team coach and a leadership coach, how I always look at it is, before introducing the process, how does it align with the group outcome or objectives? And the other thing, in fact, after I signed up in the afternoon, I did some homework in the evening where, if I'm getting the name right, Rajwell, that village panchayat leader, where he says you have to take people along, you have no choice, and the village has no future if you don't take people along. So it kind of resonated with the title of, the facilitator, which Kavi shared in the beginning. So, yeah.
Thanks, Ravi. One of the things I wanted to add to what Kavi said was what we were hearing was coming from when we were with our IAF colleagues at conferences, or we starting a workshop and asking for people's what are their expectations, and we were hearing regularly, I want to learn some new process and tools. And so we honour what the IAF community brings to us, and the conversations that Kavi said, a group of us were sitting down, they happened at IAF conferences, and I can remember particularly at the Seoul conference, us all sitting down and having this exploration, which was the feed. So we really honour this community and how it's provided us the platform to create this book and to think the way we are thinking about this. And we're going to ask you now to jump into some breakout groups, and we're going to, and I've just put the question into the chat, and we're asking you to consider when you've helped a conversation move forward outside of a formal role of being a facilitator. And again, always we ask you to speak from a lived experience, from a story that you can remember, because it's the stories that make it powerful. So we're going to open up the groups, and we're going to give you about 7 or 8 minutes within this group. There's 3 to 4. We'll give you a 2-minute warning. And I'm just about to break out those rooms. Is there any questions on what the task is? Kavi, anything you wanted to add? Great. We'll see you back here in about 8 minutes.
Yep. I've got the breakout rooms ready.
I've done it. Ravi's in a group that's just one person.
Yep.
Because-
I'll move him to the last room. Is it okay? Room number 6?
Yeah, great.
Yep.
Ramesh,
Hi, Ramesh. How are you doing? If you're speaking, you're on mute. Maybe he's not there.
how's it going, Stephen?
Yeah,
Going
good, Kavi.
good?
Yeah. What do you think, Kavita?
Going good so far. Yes.
What's a key insight for you so far from the conversation?
So for me, what stood out is how you actually researched and put the entire piece together, talking to people, making it alive. That stood out for me.
Thank you.
There's a lot of stuff that also happened around a lot of research, both anthropological research and going deeper into the history of groups. How did groups come alive? How did the Roman Empire come alive? How did Nalanda come alive? So many different research, and that may be also because of my own being, you must present something authentic and data and all of that. And it was good. But it's so long ago. Don't remember much of it.
Yeah. And I love reading the chapter itself because you brought in some case studies, you brought in some learnings that you put together. I think that was beautiful.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I might mention a little bit later on was it wasn't just about we were collaboratively writing the book, and so all of the authors were looking at each other's chapters and providing inputs. So it was a very iterative process. I really get what you're saying, but this bit I'm not so sure about what you're trying to say. So it was quite different to just the two of us giving feedback, but having an audience of, I don't know how many other authors of there are, 12, 11, 12 of us, Kavi?
14, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's part of the process as well.
And it's amazing to see each other giving feedback. One is that. And second, getting their perspectives and then going back and maybe reworking on that piece.
Oh, yeah, it was a massive exercise. It took a lot of time.
Yeah.
A lot of time. It took a lot of commitment. It wasn't easy. There wasn't universal agreement. The group had a lot of disagreements. We've gone through a process by which this has come alive this way. It had come alive in a different way. It wasn't easy. I learned quite a lot
Yes.
about myself.
Yeah.
One was the writing but how do you collaborate with so many different cultures and time zones and put something out, and it wasn't easy.
Any
Yeah.
particular key insights that you would like to share, that your learnings from the book?
From the content of the book?
Yeah, not from your
Oh.
chapter particularly. Anything that you said it impacted you as an individual, right?
Yeah,
So what were
I'm
those
going to talk about
insights that you gained?
I'm going to talk about that right now, as soon as people come back.
Okay.
Steven,
Okay, we do have Malik joining us. Yeah. Hi, Malik.
We've got
Hey,
about
hi.
2 minutes
Hi.
left.
We do have people in the breakout room. Would you like to join them? Just to
Oh, yeah,
observe the discussions?
I'm sorry I joined in a little late. Yeah, I could just maybe be with a breakout.
Yeah.
I could do
You
that
can
and just,
actually observe them and
yeah,
then
just
maybe,
observe them and see what's
yeah.
happening. I don't want to start
Yeah.
off
Okay.
with this. Okay.
You won't be there
Perfect.
long, but yeah, go for
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
So, okay, I'm adding you to a breakout room.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did we hear back from Ramesh?
No, not yet. Ramesh, can you hear us? Looks like he's not there.
Yeah, just about to close them.
Yeah. Hi, Fiona.
Hi. Hello. Sorry,
Hello.
I'm late.
No problem. We have people in the breakout room and they're just about to come out. So you can be
Okay, I
here
will
with
wait.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Where are you
you.
coming in from, Fiona? Which
Uh,
country?
Yeah, I'm coming from Shanghai, China.
Nice one. Welcome, Fiona.
Hi.
It looks nice and sunny and warm there.
Yes, very warm. It's summer
Very
now.
warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So may I ask where are you? In which country?
Oh, yeah, sure. I am in Brisbane in Australia.
Ah, okay. Then what time is it now?
It is 6:35
6:35
p.m.
p.m. Ah,
Yep,
okay. Yeah.
ahead of you. Just. Yeah. Welcome back. Welcome back. We'd love to get a sense of the conversations that happened in the room. The question was around, share us a moment where you helped a conversation move forward outside a formal role. Why don't we hear from group number 2, which had Andal, Lata, Lexana, and Nitin in it? What emerged from that room? I'll put you on the spot. Anybody from that room ready to give it a shot?
Okay, I'll share. Yeah, so
Thanks, excellent.
maybe our colleagues can add up later on. what I sense is that everyone share the story of something is happening in the field. People started to connect and had initiatives from a situation whereby in the beginning perhaps there was not so much activities or sort of like subsequent ripple effects, and somewhat somehow because of each way of communicating, connecting, and give meanings to the events generally. So everyone started to connect, and they are willing to put their not only their thoughts but also their actions. So that's what I heard is on a bigger picture level. So maybe our colleagues here can add some more.
Nice one.
Just to add,
Communicating and connecting.
just to add 30 seconds, I was a part of this group. Hi, everyone. So,
Hi, Nathan.
hi. One of the things I think is that if one was to ask what is facilitation after the experiences we shared, where we did not have any formal, way of functioning as a facilitator, the seasoned facilitator would end up saying, "Hey, this is what facilitation is all about. Why are you confusing yourself with the methods and the logic of how to become a facilitator? Because you've been doing that." So what I'm trying to say is that at times and most times, we are just a small community all over the world which practices facilitation in a formal manner. But there are, I'm sure if I don't exaggerate, there could be millions of people who are doing it in various different industries, politics. And I always keep saying this, though it may sound a little bit different, but I keep making this joke. Even in the Mumbai underworld, you have facilitators. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Fun. Thanks, Nathan. Why don't we hear from group number 3, Michelle, Patricia, Shivani, and Sin, who'd like to give us a shot about what they were hearing. And then we'll hear from one more group. Don't rush us.
Yeah, I can go. Actually, we were talking about once this conversation starts in Asia culture, we start senior to start they go started. So I think that we had a great conversation actually talking about how conversations begin. It could be we need a normal role, but sometimes it could be very simple. Ask some question, even makes no sense sometimes in a space, or offer some food, make some smiles, be nice to others, or just just be casual. We don't need really to have this sticky walls and the papers to start this conversation. Actually, we don't need to even learn how to talk to others. So we already know that. So that is something I heard. Someone else want add something?
Yeah, Patricia's put something in that the word facilitator was initially used to describe individuals who helped or assisted people working underground during World War II. So facilitation in its various forms has existed for a long time. Great, thank you. So we'll hear from one more group. Why don't we hear from room 6, Larry, Manju, Ravi, or Shri, who'd like to jump in?
I tried to type some of the things that we talked about. Listening to others, asking if a question appears, listening to my own voice was a challenge. And then something, Stephen, you said about moving forward. Moving forward is one aspect of letting go, because, or awareness of what forward means at this moment, because it's forward is not always what's happening. Something it's moving, but it's the forward gets to be can be a confusing term. I'm complete.
Thanks, Larry. Kavi, what were you hearing from those conversations?
Yeah, it's very good. I mean, I think we can close the conversation and all of us can go home. Everybody seems to know what it takes to facilitate so well. And that again proves to the essential hypothesis, which is that it's natural. It is in all of us. And Nitin made a point about the Mumbai underworld. The underworld world over is extremely facilitative. They deploy it for wrong ends, but that's a different story. They are facilitative. They make it easy for a set of people, household people. We make it easy for others. We all take to the essential. We use a phrase in the chapter called the facilitative bone is in all of us. And there was a debate that we had, must we call it a muscle or must we call it a bone? And it was a very good conversation. And finally, we said, no, it is a bone because the muscle can lose its essence, but the bone will stay. And it is so innate to us, and we should harness it even more. And that's why we say there is a facilitative bone in all of mankind, all of humankind. And we have to learn to let it operate and let it fly. So this conversation, Stephen, and what all Larry and Nitin and everybody else shared, just proves the hypothesis that, hey, you have got to listen more, you've got to talk more, you've got to help more. That proves the hypothesis that nobody's speaking about, let's do process 35 here, right? It's simple things like listen to each other. And that's the essence of the chapter. All this exercise really helped unravel that the essence is simple. What we build on top of it is great, but the essence remains simple, and we all have it in us. And how we deploy it must enhance who we were in the beginning. That's the whole point. Stephen, you want to make some comments?
Just a quick, what I'll be curious about is how you begin to see more of it, and it could be an exercise or a challenge for you in the next week, is to look where you're seeing facilitation happening without a title. And it's a little bit like when you buy a blue Toyota Corolla and all of a sudden you see blue Toyota Corollas everywhere. So it'll be great, and please keep in contact with us, is that now that you're watching and seeing how much more of it you see when you go out there. I'm complete, Kavi.
Thank you, Stephen. And as we went about talking to people, we spoke to plumbers, as I said, we spoke to musicians, we spoke to a village elder under a banyan tree, having chai and sitting down and speaking to them and all of that. There were three essentials that we looked at finally, and we can talk for a long time about the various other dimensions that are there. But there are three essentials that we that we concluded upon. And that's something that I'm going to share right now. And the first one, we called it showing up. And the showing up in itself had three elements. And the first element of showing up was about showing up without an invitation. The people that we spoke to said nobody needs, they didn't know the word facilitation. They said if something was happening, I would step in and do something. And there was no taking on a formal role as a facilitator. If something is happening, would you wait for being invited to have a conversation and make it easy for others? Or do you show up and step up without invitation? That's one arc. The second arc was all of these people that we met and spoke to knew what to hold lightly and what to hold tightly. And we've used this in several conversations earlier, which is the lightly, tightly conundrum. Do you want to hold the process tightly? Or do you want to hold yourself tightly? Or do you want to hold your group that's going to be important for working. And all of these people held the moment and the importance of that moment and the well-being of the person very, very, very tight. But they held themselves lightly. They took themselves very light. They did not, they operated from a space of, it doesn't matter. It's not about me, but it's about solving what you have right now. And let's do it together. Let's work on it together. That was a very, very important element that we found very, very fascinating. And the other part that I must also talk about is the showing up. The third element of showing up was always with the question of how can I help? And that was beautiful. That the whole thing was not about how can this add for me, but it was about how can I help in this situation. So it was about I'll show up without invitation. When I show up, I'll hold some stuff lightly and some other stuff tightly. And when I show up, I will always show up with how can I help as a mindset. These were the elements about showing up we saw in people. The second facet was what we call in this chapter, we called it meta knowing, which is knowing that I don't know. Knowing that I don't know what's happening with this person. I don't know what all is happening in the background. I don't know what else is possible. And that, to me personally, was the most important lesson that I learned as we wrote this book. One of my biggest takeaways personally was that when we facilitate, I used to write out clear objectives saying at the end of this, we will have 1, 2, and 3. But all the folks that I met and spoke to said and started out the conversation with, I don't know what's going to happen here. I have an idea and I have a deep wish and I will go towards this direction, but I really don't know what's going to happen here. And the level of comfort with which they had about, I don't know what is going to happen here, pointed us to another direction, that it was not restricted to what they were seeking to achieve. Because oftentimes, because they didn't know what all could emerge, much more would emerge from every interaction that these folks had. That was very precious. Many times we walk in, I used to walk in, I still do walk in with, I'm going to achieve 1, 2, and 3. And when 1, 2, and 3 happens, I'm very happy with it. I'm saying, hey, 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3 has happened. But when we walk in saying, I don't know what all is going to happen, we often end up with not just 1, 2, and 3, but much, much, much more richer than that. That was, and that continues to be one of my biggest lessons and learnings in writing of the whole thing. And the last piece that we called as lattice sensing, and much more of this book, much more of all of these ideas and concepts are there in this chapter. Lattice sensing was a phrase that we gave to how you could cross deploy your sense, which meant that we have a phrase there which is, can you listen with your eyes? Can you fill your heart with your ear? So that's cross deployment of senses, and that we call as lattice, which is, as a lattice, we just have cross deployment, which meant that people were not just accessing one side of themselves, but they were fully present. I still remember we were working with I was working with a plumber, I think a gentleman called Venu, who was mentioned in the chapter as well, who would look at somebody and said, I don't think he's in a good frame of mind today. And I would go, how do you know? I said, no, he usually is doing 1, 2, 3, but today, even his response to me, I asked him how his volume was not okay. This was not okay. And therefore, they were hypothesizing that something else is possible. So there was this thing called lattice sensing. So these were the essential ideas that we worked with when we worked with a lot of people. So that was, I'm going to summarize again. One is to show up. Show up without invitation. Show up knowing what you will hold lightly and what you'll hold tightly. And show up with a question of, how can I help? You know, I'll tell you one application area that's happened after this conversation, after we wrote the book, was about somebody who was in a networking organization where they network. I don't want to take the name of the organization. He came back and said, look, after reading the book, after reading the chapter, I tried something else, which is to go out and talk to ordinary people. And the purpose of networking was not to get to know their name, but I used to go in with a clear intent of, how can I help this person? And when I went in with the essential question in my mind was, how can I help this person? The whole gamut of my own repertoire of friends that I have accumulated over a period of time has completely changed, because the showing up was with the foundation of, how can I help? So that changed the game for the gentleman. So all of that was about showing up. Number two, so one was about showing up. The third element was about lattice. The second element was about meta knowing is not knowing, being comfortable with, I don't know, and that's the meta. Knowing is finite. Being comfortable with what all is unknown is meta. And the third element, as I said, was cross-deployment of senses that we call as lattice sensing, which is, how can you listen with your heart? And how can you be very clear about things with your ear? And so all of that helped us. This is what we primarily saw in people who were able to deploy a facilitative way of life when they did not have a title as a formal facilitator. So the sum and substance, therefore, when what we wrote the chapter, and afterwards with a lot of other facilitators, what we said was, get your processes, get your methods, get your methodologies right. But that's where you start. And when you start from there on, you climb up. And after you climb up, you look at, how do I show up? How can I help? Can I show up without being asked to be the facilitator? Can I listen more deeply? Can I just forget my process and know that what all could come up from this conversation is far more than what I came in with a specific set of objectives? Those were some of our learnings, and that's what's encapsulated in the chapter. There's just one last element. The beginning of the chapter is a lot of history of how groups have evolved and the contours of why it's important to recognize that facilitation, the word is new, but the craft is age old and the bone is in all of us. Stephen.
Thanks, Kavi. We said at the beginning, the reason why we come to these workshops is to learn. So I'm just sitting back and listening to Kavi, reflecting back on how we got to where we got to. And I'm just going to have a conversation with you, Kavi. Use this as an opportunity, because more context, Kavi and I are business partners. So we have opportunities we've had hundreds of conversations with individuals in group processes. And when I hear you having that conversation, I could just see how much it has become the foundation of our work. I'm not blowing a trumpet, but it's just about the process of writing, the process of having backward and forward conversation. It's almost as though, like the last one around lattice, it's sort of become a framework for the basis of our work. And one of the things that I've gone on done in the last 12 months is running a podcast, and have had interviews with many people across the world, and that podcast is called Forks in the Road. And I can see how that whole process of just showing up and ladder sensing and meta knowing has come through in that. What have you noticed in the complex work that you do with complex problems in organizations and coaching conversations with executives? How do you think it's influenced your work in the last 5 years?
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Like what I said earlier, one of my greatest and my greatest takeaway after writing the chapter and reflecting on it, the greatest of lessons is in meta knowing is not knowing, and being very comfortable with that. We work with lots of boards, lots of CXOs around the world, and we usually are tasked with one specific element saying, this is the problem. But oftentimes we don't stop there because we think that there is far more than that. And that foundation got established in writing and finding out and learning from people from ordinary walks of life. And they taught us very clearly to harness the facilitative bone, to stay curious and stay humble and to stay learning and to put your head down and listen to people very carefully. And what we found after that is, as much as the world has progressed in so many domains, the world has regressed when it comes to listening and give people a feeling that they're being listened to. And that is the most precious gift that we can offer each other. And my own hypothesis, Stephen, is that much of the absence of listening is because we think we know. And when we enter conversations with curiosity and with a firm belief that we don't know everything, we have ideas about a lot of things, but we don't know everything. We have to know, and unless we inquire, unless we are curious, unless we are courageous to tap into, find out what else is happening, we won't know. And therefore, my biggest takeaway has been meta knowing, is we don't know everything. And we have to, unless we're curious, we won't get far. We get very far, both in the craft of facilitation and in the craft of bringing change to organizations.
Thanks, Kavi. Yeah, we've been going back and reading the interviews and Pervatam, and there's lots that we'd love to share with you, but we want to hear from those three things, and I'm just going to present again in the Menti. So it's the same Menti link, if you can find that, Kavita, that we had before. And we just want to find out from you which one of these resonates the most with you right now. We just want to get a sense. You've got to choose one. Show up, meta knowing is not knowing, or ladder sensing. We just want to hear from you. And have you got access to that okay? And so 0 is you can slide it along, strongly disagree, right?
There are two links here, one from Michelle and one from Kavita. Which one should we? Either is okay?
It's the same. It's the same.
It's the same.
It's the same. They just spontaneously posted it at the same time. Interesting. We're 11 out of 21.
See, the reason we need to choose one is.
That's a good question, Larry. It's just from the conversation and what you heard, what resonated with you most, just as a starting point. It's easy to say all four of them, and that gives us a sense of, okay, what can I dive a little bit deeper into? Great. Thank you. Yeah, it's a bit split. There you go, Kavi. What are you thinking about that?
Good to know. Yep, I can relate to people kind of very clearly having a finger on what lattice sensing is all about. And very much relatable.
Great. Kavita, if you could just prepare some breakout rooms. We're just going to get you to just go into a little bit of thinking from the conversation of what you've heard so far, what it stimulated inside of you, and what one way that you could live a facilitative value in the next week. So just getting you thinking about what you've heard and how that would manifest in just your everyday going about life in the next week. So are we ready to go there, Kavita? All right.
Yeah. How many minutes do we need?
Oh, Kavi, how are we going on that? I think we would have about 10 minutes. No, we'll go for 8. We'll go for 8 minutes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. And I'll put the question up in the chat and we'll cast that out as well.
Okay. Rooms are in. So can I go ahead and open the rooms? Okay.
Sin, have you got your request there to join the room? Should be room number 4.
Yeah. I think he's on the phone. So on the phone, down below, when you click, you'll get 4 windows, a box, and that's where you'll find the join breakout room. Yeah, who's got it? Hi, Preeti.
It's nice.
So I don't see.
Yeah.
I
go
don't
ahead.
see Ramesh, so I think he's moved out.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
So how are we doing on time, Stephen? We're at 2:30. We're about 24 minutes to go.
Yeah. We're doing pretty good. 6. We're, yeah. You're keeping the time on that one, Kavita? When we started that? Yep. Okay, great.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see how we go, Kavi. I think there's lots of question and answers that have been coming, so I think that we've got scope there.
That's true.
Do you have, Kavita, any closing, anything in particular that how much time do you need in closing?
We don't have anything in particular except one announcement to be done, saying that we'll be doing a mentoring session. There's the next option, which is for mentoring for the last one and this one, because what happens is, as a next step, people who would like to host these conversations, we mentor them and they host it in their cities or their countries.
That's fun.
On the book, is it? On the book.
Yeah, on that chapter particularly. Yes. So for example, in China, we have a session with Mandarin, which will happen.
Gotcha. Lovely. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
So it's like paying it forward.
Hmm. Yeah, Kavi, yeah, when we have conversations like this, it just, this chapter hasn't lost its value. I mean, the topic is as real and as important now as it was when we wrote it 5 years ago. And it's great to have that sense of people are resonating with it.
What do you think, Kavita? How is it going?
I think it's pretty deep, and specifically the 3 essentials that you spoke about. I have made a note of it completely, all 3 of them. And I'm going to go back and reflect on it a little bit more. I actually have a Word document open in front of me and I was typing.
Okay. This is not ours. This is how we saw people do. We are just, if it were, we were just messengers of what we saw. People who are well-formed facilitative bone do. Yeah.
And absolutely, I resonate with your third point, which you spoke about, saying you need to make sure that one, in the showing bit of it, it's not about you, it's about them.
Yeah.
If you're able to take care of them, I think you've done your job.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. That is so true. That is so true.
Mm.
And that's what's most lacking these days.
Mm.
Everybody wants to do things as long as what's in it for me is where things start. But you don't flip it and say, okay, what's in it for them? How can I help them? And the what's in it for you will eventually come to you. Is the feeling, is the hypothesis that we have.
Yeah.
So typically in these sessions, how many people do you get?
Depends on the range of around 15 to around 20 people. Sometimes 30 people have also landed up. So roughly around that. But last week or last time, the last chapter that we did, we had less number of people. We had only 12 people.
Kavi, I think one of the things that resonated with people a bit at the beginning was this livelihood versus life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was just sort of the right words that just went, yeah. And you're focused on trying to be the best facilitator. And just being facilitative.
Yeah, true.
Oh, who's that there? Preeti?
Yeah, Preeti.
Do you want to put her?
Yeah, I got disconnected from my.
Which group were you in before, Preeti? Do you remember the number?
In fact, Preeti didn't get a chance to move into the
Yeah.
breakout room. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Do you
if you
wanna-
want, I can move you there, Preeti.
You won't be there long, but yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I can.
Yeah. I've added, okay.
How are we going? How much longer?
Almost time up to close the breakout rooms. Should we go ahead and close the breakout rooms?
Yeah, that'd be good. It'd be good to have enough time for conversation back here.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to be in this room or in the breakout because there's nobody else coming here?
We are having people coming out now. Within 10 seconds, everybody should be out.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're doing, Bhatti, what I was having in mind, a little bit of a movement break. Nice one.
Stephen and Kavi, you both add a spring in my feet every time I listen to you, and you give me a bit of wings every time.
I was just thinking the same thing about you, Bhatti. My mum used to say, it takes one to know one. Welcome back. And again, you know, we're really looking forward to hearing what was emerging in the room. Who'd like to just jump in and just share? And I'm not going to focus on any particular group. Who'd like to share about what happened in your group? This is what we call showing up.
So
there must be one of
let
you.
me go
Great.
first.
I will let you
I'm
go
Nalini here.
first, Nalini.
Yeah, and so Nitin and Lakshana and Agnello, we were together as a team, and we had some very good conversation around it, and what commonly emerged values that we would like to take it forward for the coming week. One was on showing up, and the second one was on lattice sensing. Though one or two of us had more than one, but sticking on to what you what your question was, we would say that showing up and lattice sensing has come up for the group, for the team.
And any other points or that in that discussion, or any questions that remain with respect to any of those three?
Yeah, there was a very okay. There's one thing which I was referring to the earlier conversation we had in the first breakout room, that when I told Bharti I'm stuck, I really don't know. I don't remember outside the formal role. I don't know when I had facilitated a conversation further. And then later, when Kavi said that you listen, you ask more questions and all that, then I was able to relate that sometimes when my son comes to me with any problem, sometimes these teenage people prefer that we don't show up rather than showing up. But however, when they show up, you know, then we listen to them, paraphrase them, and then ask them some more questions to understand, and then give them options, not decision, because very unlikely they would totally go with what we say. So we give them some options to consider, and that's how I was able to relate, and I felt happy. I shared this in the second breakout room, because first breakout room I was I was stuck. Then the team was happy enough to listen to the entire thing, and they acknowledged it. And Nitin also had a powerful story to share. Nitin, I prefer that you say it in your own words, Nitin, about how you want to go about understanding your clients better, you know, in terms of care. Nitin, would you like to please?
Yeah. Thank you, Nalini. So what I was driving attention to myself and to the group was that when we are saying that live a life as a facilitator, essentially you are saying that you are not being given the formal role, and you just jump in into the conversations or help out a group or just be a part of it. Now, the biggest challenge, as I see it, is being uninvited or being there without that hat, in inverted commas, formal entry, being told to do that, because you are being vulnerable to not being accepted. When you do a formal session, the clients or the group or the participants are already accepting you for whatever reason, whether it's HR and otherwise. Here, when you are living life as a facilitator, you are to a large extent being very, very vulnerable to being rejected. And I'm now connecting that. Firstly, you're uninvited because you're asking yourself, how can I help? It's not about me being getting the praise, but I want to help the group. So that comes the second part. And when you're doing that in between, because of paucity of time, it's not going to be a session that 1 hour 20 minutes or that you're going to be there. So what all you can hold lightly and tightly has to be very clear. For all the group just says, okay, it's over, bye bye, thank you. You just walk off very lightly and not keep thinking, I could have impressed upon the following things onto the group so they could have done better for themselves. Because in the first place, you are uninvited. If you go with that, I think it will be better that we become and lead a life as a facilitator. Thank you.
Thanks, Nitin. Kavi?
Yeah, I just wanted to, it's a beautiful one that Nitin shared. Thank you, Nalini, as well. I know I have to call you. Nitin, I'll just give you one anecdote, Nitin, just for you. You used the word group. It need not be always groups. I just wanted to bring to attention one specific aspect through an example. There was once, about 2-3 months ago, there was a very big CHRO and us, we were having a conversation. And I was sitting across the table and we were having a conversation. And the whole conversation was about him being very clear about what needs to be done. And me hypothesizing that there is more than what you're saying here. And we were very facilitative in the engagement with the gentleman. In the end, I also offered to him that, look, I don't think I am the right person for this. But let's examine what all is there on the table. And finally, he discovered that what he came to the table with was not the problem, but there was a higher order problem sitting in his head. It was not something that I was creating, but I was helping him discover what the real need was and what the stated need was. And the real need, I was not the guy. But I was okay with it because I was really focused on helping him figure out what the real need was. Now, that's where it ended. And he said, thank you very much, because I really understood what I need to do. Now, you might turn around and say, but that means a loss to you. Yes, it was. But we gained a friend. And that was even more important. And that was, in our experience, being very facilitative. And the courage and the confidence the gentleman has on what we'll offer anytime in the future is manifold than what it was before. So it's not about in that moment. It's about, and you use the word being uninvited. I was uninvited to be a facilitator to help him see what the problem was. He was explaining it to me. The role was not, I was not going to take on wear a facilitative hat in conversing with him. But my goal was to help him see what all was there. And that helped him see. I mean, many times it does not help them help. I'm not able to help, but in this case it worked. And when it worked, I was not invited to do that work. And it came at a loss to me in that particular point. The point I'm laboring on is this, that sometimes we are not invited for that role. We might be invited for something else. And we facilitate them to understand this better. That's the point I'm making. And we'll need to be open to whatever emerges. If you're better off, that's going to be better for both of us. And when we enter it like that, the amount of confidence over a period of time people have, amount of trust people have, that you're willing to let go, really willing to help other people. The amount of trust over a period of time, it's a cumulative interest that you earn over a long period of time. If you are interested in short-term returns, and I want to grab it very hard, and I want it's short-term, and we never grow out of an orbit. And that's the power of being facilitative when uninvited to the role of being a facilitator. We are invited for something else, but you don the hat of, can I really help you think this through differently? That's a nuance that I just thought I should add, Stephen.
Yeah, well, thanks, Kavi. And I'm sure as people were listening to that, were thinking of many situations that are similar in their own lives. And what stood out for me was that, but I made a friend. And as you said, these things are accumulative. And these people don't forget those moments. And having that sense of faith in those moments accumulating throughout time. I know that we're getting close to completion in terms of time, in another 7 minutes or so. We're going to just give you one more question with respect to in the Menti, and I've just put that up in the chat. And that question is, we're going to ask you to complete a sentence. A facilitative life is to you. And whilst you're contemplating that and completing that, we'll give you a couple of minutes to reflect on that. From the conversation that we've had, what's emerged? Is everybody able to access that?
Not able to see the link, actually. Yeah, got it.
Yep.
It's the same link. I've just put it up there. Yeah.
Thank you. And I dare say your answer to this question will change over time. It may be different tomorrow morning. It may be different at the end of this week as you've gone home and you write a little bit and you reflect, and maybe once you get the recording and you listen to this again and you have a conversation. And we call that in Australia, our First Nation language for it is called yarning. It's where we have a deep conversation with somebody, but then we're also listening and hearing how they feel about what we've said. So we really encourage you to share what you've heard today with others, because their questions will help you understand how much you understood about the topic and how much more you need to dive a little bit deeper. So I'm just going to share the screen so that you can see what's emerging. And can everybody read that okay? It's big enough?
Yep.
Thumbs up. Thanks, Kavita. We're deepening our conversations and understanding. A facilitative life is being open to channel the essence of the truth of a group. And as Kavi said, it may not be a group. Life of being present to yourself and the people around you. Nice one. Operating from the space of meta living and showing up to use latter sensing. And also in First Nations, though they also talk, particularly in Australia, is I might give you a word, and we've given you a word, meta living, we've given you a word, letter sensing, but find a word that you're comfortable with that means that, and then it will hold truer to you. It may not be meta knowing, it may not be ladder sensing, but find a word that's rich for you. A rich and fulfilling life, generative, where we show up, be there, listen and support, where you're willing for someone to take credit, one that listens deeply, sparks possibilities and empowers others, of being service, holding myself lightly, one of being in deep service of what is emerging in the moment. Facilitative life, showing up fully and being helpful. What are you noticing, Kavi?
I think it's very deep and very profound thoughts expressed in very simple ways. Yeah, I mean, it's very touching to read all of this and to see that all of the 20 odd people in this room are thinking about living a facilitative life. And that means to serve the original purpose with which we started the chapter is to go beyond the process. We are not saying go against the process, go against the tools. Take the process, take the tools, and go beyond it. And that's the moot point. Take it and make it your own. Make it part of life. Make it part of living. Make it part of conversation. I know Nalini spoke of how she speaks with her son. How do we make our families facilitated? How do we make our interactions at work facilitated? How do we make friendships more facilitated? How do we make ourselves live such fulfilling times in the planet, and without going on autopilot mode and let life slide? How do we make it purposeful, deliberate, and happy and joyous by making it rich for everybody around us? And that's the opportunity that's available to each one of us when we let our facilitative bone that's there in each one of us just take strength more, just become the source of much, much more to all of us. That's the opportunity available to all of us. And so fulfilling to read all of what people are saying that they're going to try a few things. We are aware that the hustle and bustle of life will take over. But do keep in mind, whenever you meet a fork in the road, that it's going to be important for you to remember that there is a facilitative bone inside you, and that will help you overcome any impasse that we find ourselves in life. And that bone is good to work with anything that we are faced with, and we can all navigate our lives far better, especially so that we also don a formal role as facilitators. That's the ultimate joy. To know that there is something inside me, and here is a profession that I do, and it's such a joyous time out here. So that's the feeling of complete joy and completeness that I have, Stephen, reading all the responses that I'm seeing on that Menti screen.
Thanks, Kavi. As always, living up to your name, and very deep. And as we just reiterating what we said, we come to IAF sessions because it's a learning community. It's an opportunity for us to dive deep. And each and every conversation that we have about the book brings it alive again in us and just brings it to the forefront of our own minds. And so please keep the conversation alive with us. We've put a question into the chat. Is one word that you leave with and one thing that you'd like to try? I would love to hear that in the chat. I've just popped up in the chat the PDF of all of the things that it's yours that you've just been talking about from the 3 questions that we've asked in the Menti. So that's there for you. And please stay connected with Kavi and I, and any questions that emerge for you after this. We're very happy to be hearing it. We're also very happy to know that I know Kavita is going to ask for anybody who wants to be trained or be mentored to facilitate these sessions in different languages. That really fills our heart. That's amazing. There's a whole story that we didn't get to talk about, the whole process of writing the book and 14 different authors coming together, and that whole process and the dynamics of that, it wasn't easy. But I think that's us. We've reached our time, but thank you very much for coming on your Saturday, and it's been great to be amongst you all again.
So one quick one, Stephen, you've given us a very, very challenging task of finding a different word to lattice sensing. So I realized that I did lattice sensing of learning the word terminology itself, because I didn't read this chapter or book. I did not learn this with my mind, but I've learned it with my heart. And the way no more, I don't no longer people of various generation talk about taking a photocopy. They talk about Xeroxing, right? So if you suddenly ask people to say, find a different word, don't use the word Xerox. I don't know. So that's how challenging it is to think of any other word other than lattice sensing. And I really want to give this as a compliment to you, Stephen and Kavi. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Kavita?
so much, Stephen and Kavi. I think, Nalini, you've summed it up so beautifully that each one of us are grateful to have Stephen and Kavi today joining us. You summed it up so beautifully. Thank you. So gracefully, I would like to ask if Stephen and Kavi could actually take one more session. I don't know. I'm curious about it. Saying, what are the stories behind the book? I'm curious to know about it. So maybe I'm going to reach out to you all and maybe find another time to hear those stories and maybe come back and maybe share it over here, or we organize for another session where you could share those stories. We'd love to have that.
Thank you. And look, I just wanted to say a special thank you to those who have got up in the middle of their morning. And Larry, I know it is now 4 a.m. and honestly, it's deeply touching, and it's been great to be with you, with everyone. But getting up at 2:30 in the morning, that's amazing. Thank you.
Just one request.
I wouldn't have missed it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah. Just one request, if we could switch on the cameras and take one picture with all of us together with our smiling faces, I think that would be great.
Is my picture visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Nitin, Malik, would you like to switch on your cameras? Honey, Manju?
Camera
Angelo?
issues.
Oh, that's so
sorry.
nice. Yeah, great
Yeah,
to see you.
finally. Yeah. Nitin, Honey, Malik.
One
Even if
second.
you're on the phone, it's okay. Absolutely.
No, not on the phone. 1 second.
Yeah, camera issues, Malik. Okay, no problem.
I thought that you might have
Okay.
been in a helicopter.
Oh,
and
Malik
that's why you
has
didn't have the
Yeah.
camera.
camera problems. So.
Okay, at the count of 3, 1, 2, and we go 3. Awesome. Brilliant. I've captured you all. Thank you. Thank you so much. And
I really like this idea of doing a chapter 11 session on collective writing. Because I think the experience they had was very much collaborative and dialogue based writing, and yet based on each experience. I think it'd be a great session for us to do as chapter 11, just because there's 10 chapters, and then we could do it as a post book session. I think that's a great idea.
Right.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you so much,
Thank
everybody.
you,
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your time. Take
Bye.
care. See you next
Thank
session.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Kavi.
Kavi and Stephen.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Kavi.
Take
Thank you,
care.
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
bye, everybody.
So Larry, do you now just stay up, or
Oh no, I'll go
the day
back
has
to
started?
sleep. I'll go back to sleep for a couple hours, and then I'm on vacation, so
Gosh.
The sun will be
I'll
up
go.
in just an hour for you, won't it?